So you think your car is ready to go to paint. All your body work is straight, great, clean, and ready to go, right? Well, or is it? I'm going to have you second guessing. How do we check and confirm that what we have done is what it needs to be so we get the best paint job possible? Well, I got a few little things that I want to show you. Pretty simple and easy that you can do to ensure that body is ready to get painted. And what we have here is 1968 Firebird, referred to as the Great Pumpkin. We've done a bunch of bodywork, metal replacement, a lot of things to this car, and some of these panels are still 50 years old, so they're not perfect. It may look good. We're going to trust our hand running down the side of the car for the most part. It all looks solid, but for some reason we trust our eyes more than we do our hands when it comes to stuff, because I can tell you right now, it doesn't look bad in primer. It doesn't feel necessarily bad, but as soon as you put a shiny coat of paint on the side of this car or the whole thing, especially if it's a darker color, it's going to highlight and amplify any wave, ding, dent, or anything that you might have missed while doing your body work. So what is it that we can do to ensure this is ready to go? We've got a couple things I want to show you. First thing is we call this a guide coat. You actually take a contrasting color. This is a light gray primer. We'll take like a contrasting, maybe like a black primer, and just mist a coat of paint on the entire side of the car. Then we're going to use our block here, and we're going to sand it with some like 320 grit sandpaper, and we're just going to let it glide over the top of it. So if everything is all the same level, we should be able to erase the black paint off the car and just basically scuff the primer here. Now, if we have a blemish or imperfection or a problem that needs addressed, the highlighted area will still kind of stay black. That's actually lower than the surface. Our block glides across it. You're going to have some telltale signs of what it looks like. Now, I know there's going to be a few spots probably here on the side of this quarter panel that have not been addressed yet. So I figured this would be a perfect place to show you this so you can use this technique on your car to ensure the bodywork is straight. And I got a couple other ones too, so just stay tuned. All right, so what I have here is a black sandable primer. I don't normally do a lot of guide coating anymore, but in the beginning I did because then I could learn and see the technique. But now I just trust the primer. It actually changes color enough that I don't use it. I found sometimes this gums up the sandpaper, but that's just my 2 cents on that. But this is actually a great technique, well used, well developed. A lot of people actually buy a special paint. Maybe that's the secret, but basically, all we're going to do is just mist a coat far away to kind of give it a little speckle paint, so to speak, kind of like this. You just barely see anything coming out. That's all we're going to do. We'll do the whole side of the car here where I've done some body work. And actually, just go ahead and do the whole quarter panel because, you know why? And just because it's a repop panel doesn't mean it's perfect. So we're just going to go ahead and hit the whole thing here. We'll let that dry for a few minutes. That gives us a little bit of a contrast, and we'll see what it looks like. All right, so while that guide coat's drying off, I want to show you something else here. On the side of the car here, like I said, this door is 50 years old. You can see that in the camera. There's actually a dent there. This is bad enough you can visibly see this door ding and this door ding here. You got a couple options, right? Just go ahead and take your permanent marker and doodle on the side of the car, and you'll be good to go, right? That way you can keep tabs of all the bad spots that still need addressed or doctored up before painting the car. Do yourself a favor. Never, ever, ever do that. I probably said this 20 times on the series of this car. I learned this one the hard way. This stuff will bleed back through to your top coat, almost always to your clear coat. You'll see through the paint the daggum notes. It says high spot, low spot, or fix this right here, moron. Well, yeah, I did that one time. So note to self, don't do this. So how do I highlight all these spots so I don't forget to repair them before painting the car in case we miss it during the guide coat or whatever it may be? Well, I like to use a little bit of piece of masking tape. Just take a little chunk of this, about an inch long, stick it right there to the spot on the body that still needs addressed or attention, and make yourself a little note. Dent, ding, high spot, low spot. Actually, I got another spot I want to show you. Even this right here, if you get the camera to focus, you'll see that gouge right here in the body filler. That's when I was cutting the door jamb loose and I nicked that with the Sawzall blade. Well, even that's going to show through to your final paint. Same thing, put a little piece of tape, mark it with scratch or gouge or whatever, so you know you're going to need to do some more work on that before sending anything off and say it's ready to go to the paint shop. All right, well, this is dried off long enough now. I got my long block here set with 180 grit paper. Just so I can really cut this thing down. We'll see what pops back through. And we're going to do the same thing. Now we've got like a body line here. I'm going to try to do the same thing. Drag my sanding block, 30, 40 degree angle to each body line. Not just forward and backwards, not just up and down, but kind of, because all panels have a curve or a radius to them. If they were completely flat, they'd be all wavy and distorted. You've seen the side of a semi-trailer before. That completely flat panel doesn't have any strength, doesn't have any structure, and it's going to show all the blemishes. That's why they have a natural curve to everything to give it shape and structure. So we don't want to sand that out. We're going to try to keep it nice and radius. So like I said, we're going to start from here and work down to this body line, and come back up to this body line. Just kind of a stop point. Now the radius on the wheel well, that adds a little bit of a challenge. We're just going to work in this area here so you can see what I'm talking about, this guide coat. I'm already starting to see some troubled areas here. Alright, that should be good enough to show you what we have to work with here. We'll get you up here really close. You can see what's going on. Check this out. Ooh, look at the black spots here, black spot here. Gray primer, gray primer. As that block went across, that tells you this is actually areas of low spots. And across the whole top of the body line, there's a little bit of distortion. So that tells me that we actually still need to do some more body work on this. You can't really feel it when run your hand across it. So if you haven't got your hand 100% trained, this is where we get to use our eyes to tell us how we're doing. Now, this is definitely not ready for paint. Now, if you look down here where that scratch is at, look at that. It sticks out like a sore thumb. So this is where it becomes helpful. But look at this back here. That didn't really show up in that earlier shot, but you can see these sanding marks. This is about finished off. These marks here, what you see was about 80 grit. This is where I don't trust using the high build primer. Those are deep enough scratches. This needs a thin coat of glazing compound or a finishing putty to go over this and over this area here and sand it really smooth to fill in these imperfections. So I don't like relying on only the high build primer to fill these things in, because I've had this come back through and bleed through the paint once it shrinks and ruin my paint job. So just a word of advice, you're saying you see this, not good, not good, not good. This is what we're looking for. Nice, smooth, even color of the gray primer underneath, not anything out of the ordinary. So this is telling me this here area looks really nice. Now I didn't block all the way down to here yet, so I'm going to show you the technique. We'll go ahead and block the entire panel, and it'll highlight all the bad areas. There's actually one right here just a little bit poking through, as you can tell. Same thing, just need a really probably skim coat of filler. The finishing compound, that will take care of those troubled areas there. See, now you can see how good or how bad you're doing. The right way, the wrong way, and the BVG way. Well, this idea is nothing new. This has been done for many years. It works great as a guide coat technique. It highlights areas that are trouble, so you don't have to rely on just to feel your hand across this panel to verify you have it ready for final paint or final primer. As you can tell, I've already marked it here. It says fill sand marks. This is what I'm going to do now for the rest of this car's journey. Start marking every little blemish or whatever things that I find while doing my guide coat, while running my hand down the side of the car and inspecting these panels from top to bottom, every corner. I want to get these things all perfectly smooth, or I hate that word perfect. Ooh, get it as close as I can to as correct or straight or super nice that I can. There's no such thing as perfect. But you get what I'm trying to say here. I just don't want to miss anything. And there's a lot of square footage on a car to remember every single little stop. And the thing about it is, I found the blemish here, so I stop and mix up some putty, fix the spot, move on to the next. No, it just doesn't make sense. It's not efficient. Because I've got this spot, that spot, that spot. Maybe I can mix a putty and hit all four of them at the same time. That's more efficient, less material. Then when you got the sandpaper ready to go to hit the stuff down, you can hit all those spots at the same time. So instead of remembering them all, tape, super easy method. I'm hoping this stuff helps you out and so sheds some light on this body working stuff. It's not horribly complicated. It does take some time, but now you have a visual reference to tell you where you're at. And you can do this at any point, even when doing the body work, the filler work, before you even put the primer back on it. You can still mist a guide coat on it to get the contrast so you can see the highs and the lows, the parts that might still need some more filler before going back to any kind of a primer. I just wanted to share this technique with you, and I'll keep working on some more of the body work. Got plenty more videos heading your way. And of course, Firebird Fest coming up here in May. Hope to see you there. And of course, if you are joining us or anybody there, let me know. I'd like to meet you or see your car just the same. I'll be there with the Trans Marado. Louis is going to probably tag along. I'm going to try to get him still bring one of his cars. But either way, he's going to try to make a guest appearance. And Brian Minson in Arizona, he's going to drive that 67 Bird we put the roof on at his house all the way from Arizona to St. Louis. So that should be a pretty cool trip for him too. But nonetheless, done enough of this. Got my hands dirty from Buddy Louie playing cars out here. I'm going to grab the camera for another part I decide to do here next. And of course, anything you would like to see in detail, let me know. I've had some great ideas for videos from you guys, and I definitely appreciate it. Plus, it helps everybody out just the same. So nonetheless, enough of this. Go back to work and grab the camera, and we'll see you guys then.